The December 15th, 2020 Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards is called to order. Pursuant to applicable law, the chairman has determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. Accordingly, attendance at this meeting will be by remote means only. We will start off with a roll call of the committee. Members, please unmute yourself as we get closer to you. So we'll start with Alderman Hopkins.
Here.
Alderman Dowell.
Here.
Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Beal. Alderman Ray Lopez. Where are my South Side friends? Okay. Alderman David Moore. Alderman Mike Rodriguez. We're still batting not too well on the South Side. Alderman Cicho Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Burnett. Alderman Raboyes.
Present.
Alderman Cardona.
Present, Chairman.
Alderman Wagasback.
Here.
Alderman Kerry Austin. Alderman Villegas.
Present.
Alderman Reilly. Alderman Kappelman.
Present.
Sorry, Alderman Reilly's here. Sorry, Alderman.
Alderman Riley's here. Alderman Kappelman's here. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Haddon.
Present.
And
Osterman's here.
Osterman is here and Tunney's here.
12.
We have,
Beal, Mr. Chairman.
13.
who is that last one?
Beal.
Oh, hi, Tony.
We've got 13 members.
All right, we have 13 members, so we do have a quorum. We'll now move on to the approval of the Rule 45 report containing the minutes of the December 1st, 2020 Committee on Zoning, Landmark, and Building Standards hearing. All members of this committee should have received a copy of this report electronically. And if hearing no objections, do I have a motion by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum to approve the minutes?
Oh, move, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Raboyes makes that motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, hearing no objections, the report has been approved. Moving on, we will now hear the items to be deferred. I will read the ward, the file number, the address, and page number, and take a motion for all at the end. We'll start on page 3 of the revised agenda in the 22nd ward, file number being 20547T1. For the address is commonly known as 3925 West 31st Street. On page 4 of the revised agenda in the 25th ward, file number 20553T1. For the address commonly known as 540 West 18th Street. On page 5 of the revised agenda in the 28th ward, file number 20545. For the address commonly known as 4206 West Van Buren Street. On page 10 of the revised agenda in the 47th ward, file number 20494 T1 for the address commonly known as 1800 through 1808 West Bernice Avenue, also 3834 through 3844 North Ravenswood. On page 11 of the revised agenda in the 15th ward, file number A8611 for the address commonly known as 1938 through 1944 West 63rd Street. Also on page 11 of the revised agenda in the 44th ward, file number A8613 for the address commonly known as 3346 North Lakewood Avenue.
Oh, come on.
On page 11 of the revised agenda in the 2nd ward, file number 20555 for the address commonly known as 1675 North Elston Avenue. On page 11 of the revised agenda in the 3rd ward, file number 20541 for the address commonly known as 319 through 331 East 43rd Street and 4300 through 4318 South Calumet Avenue. On page 12 of the revised agenda in the 12th Ward, file number 20540 for the address commonly known as 3151 South California. On page 12 of the revised agenda, also in the 12th Ward, file number 20554 T1 for the address commonly known as 3723 through 3753 South Archer, also 3728 through 3904 Southwestern Avenue. On page 12 of the revised agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20542 for the address commonly known as 160 North Elizabeth. And lastly, on page 12 of the revised agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20543 for the address commonly known as 311 through 315 North Sangamon Street, 901 through 925 West Wayman Street, and 310 through 314 North Peoria Street. If there are no questions by committee members, made a motion to defer the previously item. Well, hold on. I do have Alderman Rodriguez's hand up. Mike?
Just reporting for the purposes of quorum, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman.
Me too, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Ray Lopez, thank you. And so let me, if there are on these deferred items, can I get a motion?
So moved, Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Ray Lopez makes the motion to defer the previously listed items by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing no objections, these items will be deferred. At this time, we will now begin the public comment period. Out of respect for everyone's time, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes to address all items on the agenda. This will be the only opportunity to address the items on the agenda, and the committee will not conduct separate public comment for each agenda item. And today we have 9 speakers, and we will start with Kenneth Goodman.
Mr. Goodman, please press *6 on your phone to unmute.
Maybe we'll go back to Kenneth. Our next speaker is Jackie Lowe. Jackie Lowe.
Good morning.
Is that you, Jackie?
It is.
Okay, good morning. You can proceed.
Good morning, Chairman Tunney and committee members. My name is Jackie Lowy. Regarding the proposed upzoning for the building at 4511 Clark Street, I respectfully request you delay the decision. Why in the world are all you hearing from me and so many of my neighbors at this late stage of your process? Because that process was paused in March by COVID. The newly formed Clark Street Block Club may have had their say, but the nearby Clark Street commercial business owners and the people living directly behind 4511 North Clark Street on Dover Street did not get to finish the negotiation with MCZ Development. My wife and I have spent 21 years rehabbing a single-family historic home on the 4500 block of Dover Street. We're excited about the new development in our neighborhood and welcome the interest in investment in Uptown. But the zoning code was established for a reason, and we support maintaining the current zoning. For the 4511 Clark Street development, which doesn't come back up on your agenda till number 25, so please take some notes or two here. I'm concerned about scale, as it is crucial to our unique neighborhood's feel. Yes, it is a commercial corridor, but in our area, Clark Street's a little two-lane street. Currently, and for the past 100 years, it's been composed of mostly 2- and 3-story buildings. It has all the elements to remain historic and charming. The current C1-2 zoning allows for a building up to 4 stories, appropriate to the scale of Clark Street. Ashland, on the other hand, also a commercial corridor too, recently had a building built at 4747 North Ashland with the B3-3 zoning. Its massive size is much more appropriate to the 4-lane commercial street of Ashland Avenue than to that of Clark Street. Even though it is very late in the zoning game, I respectfully request that you press pause on this proposed development until the Clark Street Corridor Master Plan that Alderman Kappelman, DPD, and Uptown United are working on is complete, and we can move forward with a more unified concept of what this unique stretch of Clark Street might become. Thank you so much for your attention to this.
Thank you, Jackie. Our next speaker is Jonathan Slovin.
Thank you so much, Alderman. My name is Jonathan Slovin, and I am a resident of 4522 North Dover Street. I'm also commenting on the 4511 North Clark Street development. As Jackie mentioned, and I'm sure you'll hear more about, the process of working with the Dover Street Block Club and then using the pandemic as cover to coordinate with another block club 3 blocks away is troubling and disheartening. The developers and the aldermen have said they wish to be good stewards to the local community, but this is not evident in their actions. Why not work to get the support or at least talk to personally, at minimum, the 4 homes that will be directly impacted by this development change? I may not have agreed with everything they proposed, but at least I would have a personal connection. When developers updated the home directly next to us, they didn't need our permission whatsoever. But by creating a relationship with us, we were able to support one another as the process unfolded. As Jackie said, we want development in our area. Instead, these developers worked with the president and founder of the block club 3 blocks away, who has yet to identify how many members there actually are in his group. Although he said they were unanimous in their support of this development, when pressed about how many members voted in favor, he never gave a straight answer. This is a problem. The all-white, almost entirely male development committee that the aldermen assembled also is troubling. Many admitted they had never visited Sheridan Park, this historic part of Uptown, and had no understanding of the businesses or needs of the community. In fact, they were quite vocal with their disdain for the area. We are not Lakeview, don't want to be, and have different needs. The alderman has said to my neighbor that he is, quote, putting a stop to any zoning changes until this study happens. The study he is referring to is the retail corridor study of Clark Street. Why wouldn't we wait until this study is complete before approving this zoning change? It is inconsistent. It isn't consistent at all, excuse me. With that, there was talk by the Aldermen's Committee that there are plenty of other buildings along Clark Street that have a similar and set a precedent. This is not true. There are a few other buildings that are 3 or 4 stories, but none of them are up against single-family homes. I think this must be taken into consideration. Also, none of the other similar buildings have only 1 entrance for their garage, and in this instance, for 28 cars. This is a huge increase of cars coming in and out of 1 entrance in an already busy alley. When asked if there was a study done about this impact, no response and no study was presented. This process has been rushed, forced through, and inconsistent with the alderman's own words. He says we need 2 more bedroom units in the area, and I completely agree. But building a large building with only a handful of 2-bedroom units on a local 2-lane street up against historically designated homes that is not intended to sustain such an imprint is not the answer. I urge you to vote no for this zoning change. And if
Thank you, Randy. Or Jonathan, I'm sorry. Next is Randy Wilson. Randy,
Alderman,
good morning.
good morning. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my comments about 4511 North Clark Street. I'd like to start by addressing the inadequate infrastructure that already exists just behind this building where I live. At least 3 times a year, we have raw sewage backing up into our basement. Adding a more dense residential building will not help this at all and will likely make it worse. Unlike most residential buildings in Chicago, our building and the whole block sewage plumbing goes to the alley, not the street. I would ask that prior to approving the zoning change, sewage issues be investigated and remedied. The alley is already heavily trafficked. Many residents use the alley to access parking, and much of the time the alley has traffic that must yield to someone traveling in the opposite direction. Currently, this is not a problem. However, with more parking off the alley, it will quickly become a problem. Residents will have reduced ingress and egress from the alley. The three businesses that currently rent these storefronts bring diversity and color to the ward that is lacking in business ownership. These businesses both compete with and complement each other. There are many people that shop in these businesses that do not come from the ward, but from other wards that lack this diversity. With the Block Ensemble Theater less than a block south, I would think that as a community and as a city, we would want businesses owned by people of color and immigrants to thrive in the area, especially after investing TIF funds into the Black Ensemble Theater. We have an opportunity to let businesses owned by people of color and immigrants thrive. This proposal would be devastating to those businesses already located on the block, as well as surrounding businesses owned by minorities. Since this proposal has been approved by a block club whose members are 2 blocks away, the next property south has been listed for sale, and this listing touts that an upzone would likely be approved since this proposal has gotten through neighborhood groups and the alderman's office. This couldn't be further from the truth, as this upzone was not approved by the neighborhood groups, but from one block club that has no member to speak of on the 4500 block of Clark. In approving this zoning change, the committee would be pushing the first domino of a long line of property changes that would upend mostly businesses owned by people of color or immigrants on Clark Street. This proposal also runs counter to the ward master plan. The plan points to a lack of families in Uptown and sees that fact as a negative on page 20 of the plan and calls for housing for middle-income families with children. Given the lack of multi-bedroom units in this proposal, this will not be an outcome from the development. The master plan specifically calls on larger units to be added to the ward on page 6 in the economic section. In summation, diminished property values for the surrounding homeowners, the infrastructure issues, traffic noise, and the damage to diversity in nearby businesses mean this upzone should be thought of not as a positive, but should be paused until we know it will be a positive for the developer, the surrounding residents, and local businesses. I urge you all to pause this development until solutions to the problems that have been pointed out have been solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Our next speaker is Dieter Zabel.
Good morning, Alderman. My name is Dieter Zabel. I'm property owner on 4628 North Dover Street. I'm an architect, so I'm a little bit involved in zoning changes and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna say, I'm proposing or more or less requesting to delay or pause the zoning change of the 4511, 4523 project until a comprehensive Clark Street corridor master plan will be established. Without that, it is going completely the wrong way of the nature of urban planning and where the responsibilities of zoning. To allow for a zoning change now, at this point of time, to favor a 5-story high structure is just wrong. And it is setting a precedence of other properties on Clark Street waiting to be developed. So if they are getting the message, a zoning change seems to be very easy to get pushed through. We are ending up with a super high density development along Clark Street. The height of the proposed project is out of scale for the neighborhood as we see it or as I see it. And when other projects follow, the east side of Clark Street will become a canyon wall. Other areas in Chicago have seen that before. So it was kind of a 1, 2, or 3-story buildings, and all of a sudden they have a wall of 5, 6, up to 10 stories buildings. The density of the project with 56 units, and now calculated that way, that probably you can add a factor of 1.5 residents per unit. That will equal 84 people added to the neighborhood, which is a significant amount of people to the existing infrastructure like water, sewer, electricity, gas, but also other services like shopping areas, parking, congestion of alleys, and one has to be mindful as a city planner to see the consequences, not just of one project, but also of the ripple.
Thank you, Dieter. Our next speaker is J. Sidney Puryear.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, can you hear me?
We can proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for hearing my comments. I will be essentially echoing the comments you have heard from others. I am a resident of North Dover Street. My property is located just behind the proposed development. And as with everyone else, I would ask everyone on this council
Jay, could you identify yourself on the record, please?
Sure. My name is J. Sidney Puryear.
Thank you.
The last name is P-E-R-Y-A-R. Again, at 4522 North Dover Street, directly behind this project, and I am opposed to it. As my neighbors have mentioned, from a process standpoint, I feel as though the process getting here today has been extremely flawed in terms of the lack of reach out to any of us here to gain our concerns about what this project would mean to us. I won't go through the list of the issues with that, but needless to say, as was articulated, the subcommittee that did approve this, in voicing their disdain for the neighborhood itself, mentioning that they had only perhaps some of them driven by the neighborhood on occasion without actually understanding what this neighborhood means to us, how we value the diversity of it, how we value the businesses, which are family-owned, minority-owned, immigrant-owned businesses, the clientele being very diverse. With that said, again, I feel as though at this point in time, we need to hit pause on this project, not move forward with it. We do have a master plan for this neighborhood. I won't re-articulate all of the things that have been said, but I will share a brief personal story. When I moved to this neighborhood 8 years ago now, from downtown Chicago in a largely dense area, I can tell you, coming to a neighborhood where the neighbors knew each other, where there was actually sky you could see, where there are families, I see parents walking their kids to school. This is what drew me, and I'm sure a number of other neighbors, to this location, to this neighborhood, to be a part of something. We have invested collectively millions of dollars, blood, sweat, and tears into developing this neighborhood into what it is today. And we do not want our neighborhood sacrificed for some outside developers who are looking to make a quick profit. We really do value what we have. We want to see development within the current zoning. So I am asking even Alderman Kappelman to tell the developers to come back to the drawing board and work with the neighbors, but to hit pause and oppose this measure for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patrick Phelan.
Good morning, Alderman.
Good morning.
Is
this Patrick?
Patrick Phelan.
Okay.
Patrick Phelan from 4542 North Dover Street. I am here to talk about a document that was presented to the written comments and to explain a little bit beyond that document. It's the represented results of 250 feet or one block of the proposal in regards to 45, 11, and 23 North Clark Street. The Dover Street neighbors were informed about a week before the ward zoning committee, and the neighbors on Clark Street were informed about 3 days before the meeting as a result of a petition circulated by a couple owners on Clark Street and myself. And the results of the petition and then the voting on Dover Street in regards to this proposal resulted in this document that shows that in the 4500 block of Clark Street, there were 8 owners that opposed the development and would like to have a pause on this today. On Dover Street, there were 16 property owners that were against this and is asking for a pause today. The Clark Street 8 property owners consist of retail stores, wholesale stores, liquor stores, cleaners, and have been in the street since the 1970s. They are have a background. They came from Korea, the Middle East, Pakistan, and Mexico, and they are very concerned in regards to the recent changes, and their opposing it as a result of its height, density, and lack of parking. They are particularly concerned that they were not informed of any information and still have not been reached out to by anyone in regards to this development. In regards to Clark Street, regards to Dover Street, we were in the process in March, and somehow it was taken away from us.
Thank you, Patrick. Our next speaker is Cynthia Asgar.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia Asgar. I own the building at 4653 North Clark Street. That building has 3 rental incomes in it, a storefront, which I would encourage you to go to if you're ever in the neighborhood. It's got every Marvel and DC comic character and the collectibles. It's also a phone store. My property also has that large garage on the back that's for tire repair and auto repair, and then there's an apartment upstairs. My husband and I own this building for 26 years, and I wasn't that involved in the neighborhood because my husband took care of it, but he passed away in February, so I've been more involved. And I walked that street talking to all my neighbors, and to a person, not a single business owner or building owner on that 2-3 block area on Clark Street knew about this MCZ 5-story building. It even had a courtesy notification from the alderman. And I'm just very concerned about this process because these are immigrant citizens of America who came here generations ago, some of them. Their parents came and bought these buildings, and they have continued to have these vibrant wholesale retail businesses in that block. They're all shrewd business people. They have ridden every downturn and upswing in the economy since then, and they have kept those buildings and those businesses going. And the thing is, the economics about those 2 flats or 3 flats, when there's a downturn and you're not having as many sales in your storefront, that rental income upstairs is critical. And the balance of a 5-story, I just would wish that the zoning committee would have that balanced perspective, the balance of looking at the historic nature of a neighborhood and the future vision for the neighborhood. If you put a 5-story building in there with all those apartments, these other long-term taxpayers and property owners may have a harder time renting their units. And that income from their rental units, sometimes it's a family member, but often not, is critical to their survival. I mean, if your goal is to have this whole neighborhood gradually wiped out over the next 10 to 20 years and just have towers of apartment buildings in, then maybe that's what the intent is really here. If you want to preserve the charm of this neighborhood and the multicultural vibrancy of it, then I would encourage you to scale that building back a little bit and really try to balance the economic and investment needs of that neighborhood. All those business people that I talk to, all those property owners, they're very excited about investment in that neighborhood. But they would like to be a part of the process, and they would like. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Our next speaker is Sandra Fontanez. Sandra Fontanez.
Please press *6 to unmute.
All right. I'm going to go back to Kenneth Goodman. He was our first speaker that did not respond. Kenneth Goodman.
Hello, this is Sandra.
All right, Sandra, you can start. Thank you.
Okay, I was having trouble, don't know why. Good morning. I'm Sandra Fontanez Phelan. I'm an urban pioneer. I've been on Dover since the early 80s. I'm at 4542 Dover. Love the neighborhood. I have some concerns again, my speech is going to be shorter because a lot of folks have hit some of my points. But I'm also concerned regarding the recent activities for development on Clark, and specifically for the 451123. Again, oversized, dense character, not looking at history, not looking at the historical area, not believing in the existing buildings or the neighborhood. I don't understand why we're pushing this. We are vested in our community. We want what you want, development, progress, yet there must be a plan, and that's been stated. There must be a plan, but it must be with community input. We live this every day. We're here every day. We believe in living in our neighborhood. We enjoy this here. We can't do this one building at a time. This does not make sense. It's not a vision. It's not a plan. And to omit the community is an unbelievable process. And it has happened in this particular project. Now, we've walked and talked to all of our neighbors, and we do visit the stores on Clark. And so we're very active in the community. And yes, there are minority businesses, and they're a little bit shyer to come on board. And they could be telling you firsthand of their fears. So I'm going to quote one of my neighbors on Clark, who owns a Tizal restaurant. And she said, and that would be Teresa, who owns Tizal. I recently reinvested in my community by doing a major renovation on my building and my home, because many of the businesses also live over their building, over their business. I'm afraid that big money development will push me out. Oversized buildings will take away the quaintness and the history from the street. Bigger is not always better, and I may not be able to compete against that. So basically, a lot of us are saying the same thing. Keep the zoning where it is, make a plan, make this make sense for our community. We are here to participate, work hard, we'll get on committees, we'll do the work, but don't shut us out. Thank you.
And thank you, Sandra. And I'm just one last call for Kenneth Goodman. All right, Kenneth, 3 times and you're out. So, all right, that concludes the public commentary portion of the meeting. We are now going to start today with the addendum to the agenda. Document number 02020-5007, a text amendment from Alderman Michelle Smith regarding the amendment of Municipal Code Section 2-120-910, modifying fines and remedies for disrepair of historical and architectural landmarks. My understanding, we have a substitute on this matter. Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
Chairman Tunney, Alderman David Moore is here for the
Thank you, David, for the quorum. Thank you, sir.
Those Cardenas.
And Alderman Cardenas is here too. All right, so
Alderman Burnett is here also.
Alderman Walter Burnett is here. So on the motion by Alderman Raboyes to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum, any objections?
So move.
Objections? Hearing none, the substitute is before us. We have Alderman Michelle Smith to testify in the matter. Alderman, good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you very much. Everyone, I hope, has a copy of the substitute. This is a matter that is solely restricted to landmark districts. And we have had a pattern in our community, and I know we're not alone, in districts that have been lovingly landmarked over the years, of having owners who choose to neglect their properties and in fact sometimes take affirmative steps to undermine their own buildings so that they can get an emergency order from the city to allow them to be torn down in hopes of achieving a bigger or easier financial payout. So this has happened several times in my ward, and most recently over the spring, we learned that we had a development offer for a particular building that was conditioned on the building being demolished. And when we discovered that, and it's in a landmark district, we ran to the scene and found that there had been a pattern of a building being undermined. So we tried to get the not just an inspection, which we did, which found that the building was on the verge of being structurally unsound, but we couldn't, the city didn't have the power to have a structural engineer be required to go on site to see whether the building could be shored. So this ordinance does two things. First of all, it fills that gap by allowing a building that is in a state of disrepair to qualify for legal action. And then it also changes the fines for if you are found to have allowed your building to collapse. Now, the original ordinance, something like tripled the fines because, frankly, at least in our community and in many other gentrifying communities, you know, the real estate has suddenly become even more valuable than it was before. We did receive some comments from aldermen and from the law department about the wisdom of making the fines that large. So the substitute, instead of something like tripling the fines, which the original ordinance did, we do double the fines. Now, of course, these fines are subject to negotiation in court, but we are hoping, I'm asking for your support, because when a community does support landmarking and does decide that it go forward, that it should be for real. And, you know, when the community doesn't support landmarking, that's a completely other story. But once you make that decision, we think that the city should have the tools to prevent owners from undermining their own buildings to cause them to fall down, which is what has happened in several cases, certainly in my ward, and I know about others. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I ask the support of the committee for this one more tool in the tool chest for our law department. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Do we have questions from committee members? I see Alderman Brendan Reilly's hand up. Brendan?
Thank you, Chairman. I think this sounds like a great ordinance. As someone who represents a bunch of landmark districts, I've seen similar scenarios play out in my ward, and it's disappointing. You know, unscrupulous developers demolishing from within these important historic structures. So certainly I want to do everything we can to give the city more tools to protect them. I had one question, Alderman Smith, and that is, what are the current fines and what will doubling them take them to?
I think it's 1,000 to 2,000, and it'll make it from 2,000 to 4,000.
And is that fine schedule, does it escalate if they're found, you know, to have done this more than once? My experience is that there are bad actors. Not everyone does this. Only a handful of developers do it. But the ones that do it, I think, do it chronically. And so I just love, if we have, you know, chronic bad actors, another tool to get after those folks who are habitual versus the person who innocently screws up, you know. So I'm certainly going to support this ordinance, but maybe that's something that we can look at with the law department in the future, because I think we all know there are a handful of developers who do not do the right thing. And the longer they get away with it, it simply adds, it's a disincentive for those folks who do things properly. So I'm all for this. Thank you, Alderman Smith, for bringing it to our attention, and I plan on voting for it. And hopefully we can work on going after the chronic bad actors in the future. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Reilly. Any other questions? I know we have Grant from the building department on if there's questions for the department. So anybody else? Questions?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
All right. Hearing no questions by committee members, Alderman Lopez moves do pass as amended by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as amended. Congratulations, Alderman. We'll be back with you in a few minutes. We got a couple of things to do before we get your Alderman Smith. All right.
Thank you.
Next, we have one landmark fee waiver today in the 28th Ward, document number OR 2020-325 for the property commonly known as 1035 South Claremont. We have Michele Rhymes from the Department of Planning here to testify on the matter. Michele?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Michele Rhymes. I am with the Historic Preservation Division of the Department of Planning and Development. The item before you is for a permit fee waiver in the amount of $3,000 for $400,000 being expended by the property owners Lori, and Joseph Christopher. Their building is located at 1035 South Claremont Avenue. The structure is located in the Claremont Cottages District that was landmarked by the City of Chicago in November of 2019. The Christophers seek the permit fee waiver to make improvements to their mechanical systems, the heating, plumbing, and air conditioning, to do some roof replacement work, tuck pointing and brick repair, wall plastering, and other such improvements. This project is supported by Alderman Jason Irvin, the Alderman of the 28th Ward.
Thank you, Michele. Questions from committee members? I don't have a question, but the comment, that seems like a very huge investment, a $400,000 investment, and I think the permit waiver is more than justified on that. So that is my comment. Any questions, committee members? Do I get a motion to move?
I'll move, Mr. Chairman.
Call that was used to determine quorum. That was Alderman Raboyes. The move do pass. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Moving on, we have one large sign over 100 square feet in area, 24 feet above grade, located in the 11th Ward at 645 West Roosevelt Road. Questions by committee members? Hearing no question, do I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to
Move to pass, Alderman Wags.
Alderman Wagasback moves to pass. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right. Now we'll move on to the regular agenda. In an effort to minimize technical difficulties and to ensure the committee meeting runs as smoothly as possible, the typical order in which items will be heard has been updated. Throughout the duration of virtual committee on zoning meetings, items will be grouped together according to the witness attorney and will be heard in that order rather than in ward order. So that being said, we will be on page 1, and I'll read the document number A as an aldermanic 88612, 43rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on October 7th of 2020. Common address 2017 North Cleveland Avenue, and the change request is a B32 Community Shopping District to an RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District. Alderman Michelle Smith.
Alderman Tony, I believe the address is 2107, not 2017.
Okay, let's double check.
It's Dickens.
Well, why don't we proceed and then we'll make sure it's on the record that we have the right address, okay?
Yes, thank you. So this is a building that was unfortunately allowed to fall down, and in a very unusual settlement. While this isn't in a residential perspective, is an R5, or it was a B. It was originally a B3. It had been a one-story building on this site. So as part of our efforts to defend our landmark districts, we are moving to downzone this property to an R3. And as part of the litigation that was threatened in connection with this, what we believe was a abuse of a landmark district, we agreed that the property owner has agreed to the downzoning. So we are very pleased with this outcome and think it is a tool, again, that aldermen do use to try to control their communities, and a very worthy one here. So I'd like to ask for your support for this rezoning of this area.
Thank you, Alderman. And just for the record, you're right, it's 2107 North Cleveland. It was noticed properly and on the clerk's website. So it was our transposition of those numbers. So it is correct at 2107 North Cleveland. All right. Questions for the Alderman? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same?
Alderman Kappelman moves to pass.
All right. All right. So Alderman Kappelman moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, our next item is aldermanic ordinance 8614, 46th Ward. The ordinance was referred on October 7th of 2020. Common address 1023 West Irving Park Road. The change request, a B23 neighborhood mixed use district to a B25 neighborhood mixed use district. Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you so much, Chairman Tunney. I'm wondering if I could defer to Patrick Murphy to explain the situation, if he's available.
Yes, not a problem, Alderman.
All right, Patrick, you want to speak to the committee?
Sure. So back in 2015, there was a zoning map amendment that was approved for a type 1 project that was for a residential building. That project started construction but did not proceed and was not completed. In between that time and the time that a permit was issued a few months ago by the department, a zoning map error was done by staff. We incorrectly mapped the project as a B25, mapped the parcel as B25 instead of B23. The permit that was issued a few months ago was reviewed through no fault of the applicant under the B2-5 zoning and was correctly approved. However, the zoning map error was not discovered until after the permit had been issued. We discussed it with the law department, we discussed it with the applicant and the alderman, and because the applicant had proceeded in good faith and had already gotten their permit and had already started their project, the best recourse was to rezone the property so it would not be a non-conforming project, not be a non-conforming building, and then correctly update the zoning map now so that it reflects the proper zoning, which in this case would be the B25 that was erroneously labeled a few years back.
Thank you, Patrick. Alderman?
Thank you, Chairman. So given these circumstances and given the incredible mission of Howard Brown and the Broadway View Center and all the work that they do for the LGBTQ plus community. I ask my colleagues to support this and correct this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions for the Alderman? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same?
Alderman Cardona, do pass.
To determine quorum. That was Alderman Cardona moves to pass. Any objections to his motion? Hearing no objections, the item is passed. Thank you, Alderman Kappelman. And I do want to echo my support. Obviously, you mentioned the Broadway Youth Center. They have been pillars in the community, and I think what they're doing here is going to be really an asset to yours and the entire North Side's LGBT community. So thank you for that. All right. Bottom of page 1. Next item is Aldermanic 8605, First Ward. Ordinance was referred on September 9th of 2020. The common address 2948 through 2954 West Armitage. Also 2001 through 2011 North Humboldt Boulevard. The change request is a C13 Neighborhood Commercial District to a C12 Neighborhood Commercial District. This is in Alderman LaSpada's first ward. Alderman LaSpada.
Chairman, I don't think Alderman LaSpada is on the.
All righty. All right, well then we're going to hold this. Okay, so we'll hold this until he hopefully joins us. So now we are on the top of page 2, Aldermanic application 8497, 35th Ward. The ordinance was referred on July 24th of 2019. Common address is 2643 through 2651 North Milwaukee Avenue. And this change request is from a B33 Community Shopping District to B31 Community Shopping District. This is in the 35th Ward. Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Carlos?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Chairman Tunney. This rezoning ordinance is part of the larger community land use and zoning plan that we have for my community, which seeks to preserve the existing built environment and cap future development to 3 stories along this stretch. On June 25th, I met with our zoning administrator, Patrick Murphy, who looked at all of these ordinances, and he reviewed an analysis of our community's land use and zoning policy and said that they were good to go. So I appreciate the community's, I appreciate the zoning committee support on my community enacting our land use and zoning policy.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions for the Alderman?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hearing no questions. Raboyes moves do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right. We are on the middle of page 2. This is document number 20349, 16th Ward. Ordinance was referred on February 19th of 2020. Common address is 2240 West 63rd Street. And the change request is a B31 Community Shopping District, M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District, and C22 Motor Vehicle Related Commercial District, all to an M21 Light Manufacturing District, and then to a manufacturing plant. This is, we have Larry Adelson on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, commissioners. My name's Lawrence Adelson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Chico and Nunes. We represent the applicant, CSX Transportation, which is CSX Railroad. I have with me today, thank you for that first slide, Tom Livingston and some of his associates from CSX Railroad. If they're on, they can give you a little background on CSX and how this project fits into their massive commitment to the Chicago terminal.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Tunney, members of the committee. Tom Livingston here with colleagues in the 16th Ward, live from our terminal at 59th Street. We want to thank Alderman Stephanie Coleman and the partnership with the City of Chicago all year on the CREATE project. We, in essence, are talking about a existing piece of property next to our terminal that we would clean up, light, improve, and make other improvements. Right now, as we speak, we are in our peak season with our intermodal and agricultural harvest systems, shipments, and Chicago continues to play a very important role in the global shipments. So I'm going to turn over to Ray Harris to talk more about the project, and we'll keep moving here.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone.
Well, let me just interrupt you for a second. I believe this item passed in Plan Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, it has.
Okay. So I need a motion to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
By Alderman Lopez.
So moved.
Alderman Lopez moves to pass on that request. Any objections? Hearing none, the records are incorporated. Okay, so let's continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CSX's Chicago presence is part of the company's national network that connects nearly every eastern U.S. metropolitan area where 2/3 of the nation's population lives with the rest of the global economy. CSX employs more than 500 people in the state working in various management and operational roles. This month, CSX earned a place on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index with across-the-board honors in environmental, social, governance, and economic scores. We are the only U.S. railroad to make the index and ranked in the top 15 transportation companies on their worldwide list. In addition, CSX is the first railroad to reach agreement with the Science Based Targets Initiative, which is an aggressive program to reduce greenhouse gases by 30% over the next 10 years. In Chicago, we support several charities across the city, and we enjoy those partnerships. As it relates to employment, we have a 64% minority and female workforce in Northeast Illinois. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jana Davies, the Senior Terminal Manager of the 59th Street facility where we're located.
Thank you, Ray, and good morning. I serve as the Senior Terminal Manager of the 59th Street Intermodal Terminal located at 2101 West 59th Street. Our terminal is immediately adjacent to the property we are seeking your approval on and has a direct impact on our viability as a transportation hub on the south side of Chicago. I've been at the 59th Street Terminal since 2011. We handle about 500 inbound trucks and service 6 trains per day. We have 9 overhead cranes and 3 side loaders that load and unload goods. We are a 24/7 terminal, opened in 1999 on the site of a long abandoned rail yard. Presently, the only access to our terminal, which you see on current conditions, is off of 59th Street. We have approximately 100 individuals who work as either contractors or employees of CSX. The new property will keep CSX 59th Street viable and therefore retain the many jobs I just mentioned. There will be approximately 400 construction jobs on the new surface lot and an investment of $27 million. I will now call upon Larry Adelson to discuss current and planned conditions for the site.
Thank you, Ms. Davies. If we could go back to slide 2. This gives you the context of the yard. It's in red. The green are the major streets, Damon at the north, Western at the south, and 59th to your left as you look at it, 63rd to your right. The entrance will be on 63rd. CSX has assembled this 20-acre site Took them a while. This is a brownfield site. CSX has entered it into the IEPA voluntary program to remediate it. So that's a significant plus for this neighborhood is to take a very undevelopable site out of the brownfield condition and improve it, bring it into economic use, create jobs and economic activity. It preserves the frontage on Western for continued retail use. The exit and entrance will be on 63rd Street. We worked with CDOT on the entrance conditions. CSX has a state-of-the-art gating system, which allows trucks to move off the street into a holding area. The truckers use their cell phones to get entry to the yard and get directed to where the container is that they're going to be picking up. The activity in this yard will be shipping containers, which are brought in by rail, unloaded in the 59th Street yard, and then moved in through an internal road from 59th Street yard to 63rd Street yard, where they then get distributed out onto the street grid. There was a traffic study done. We worked with CDOT to have that done. And the impact on traffic is relative to the existing traffic and the capacity of 63rd is pretty minor. In addition, CSX has committed to a variety of way above standard improvements. If we could go down to slide 5, this is an example of the screening. There's extensive tree planting at the suggestion of Commissioner Cox and his staff, so that when you're driving down Western Avenue, looking through the parking lots, you'll see some greenery. And then if you could pull up slide 5, that shows you, this is a scheme that the Commissioner Cox and his department came up with to plant extensive vegetation on 63rd Street. It still preserves the visibility that you need for traffic safety with the trucks coming off and on, but you're looking at a nice landscaped area instead of fencing and containers. So it's a pretty nice add to the community. It allows CSX has been operating in this neighborhood for 20 years quite successfully. They're a good neighbor, a good part of the community. This allows them to expand in this community. This is one of the Invest Southwest target communities. CSX will be putting an additional $27 million into this community, creating both construction jobs and permanent employment, increased jobs. While there is no city money going into this project, which is another bonus, notwithstanding that, CSX voluntarily is committed to meeting 26% of minority contracts in the construction and 6% of WBE contracts in the construction. Again, we've worked very closely with Alderman Coleman's office. She has been wonderfully supportive and helpful.
I'm going to ask the alderman to speak on this fabulous project with her AKA bracelet she has on today. I'm sure you had something to do with the land.
I've said too much, so I'll stop.
Alderman Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. I didn't realize that was in the camera. I just want to thank you and your staff and everyone in this committee for helping a freshman alderman navigate this very long process. And although COVID happened, we are still moving right along. As Mr. Livingston and Mr. Harris mentioned, a $27 million development right at 63rd and Western that will bridge the gap and provide opportunities pre and post construction. And that's what we're most excited about. In addition to expanding the intermodal in the 16th Ward over in West Inglewood that Alderman Lopez and I share. So thank you, Chairman Tunney. Thank you, CXX, and thank you to my colleagues, and let's get this on moving.
All right, I appreciate that. We have two hands raised and they are your neighbors. We'll start with Alderman Ray Lopez. Raymond.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, committee. I want to first off congratulate our colleague, Alderman Coleman, my neighbor, my alder neighbor and buddy on this fabulous project. CSX has been a wonderful partner in our ward, as they have in the 16th Ward and I believe the 17th Ward also. It's truly an anchor on our side of town, creating jobs and opportunity in the area that separates Chicago Lawn and West Englewood. And those are the kinds of good paying blue collar manufacturing type jobs, industry jobs that we need in our neighborhoods. And to see that we are not only preserving but expanding is not an opportunity that any of us should think lightly of, and we should fully support it moving forward. I look forward to voting for it today and voting for it fully tomorrow. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Definitely commend my colleague, Alderman Stephanie Coleman, for working on this project as it impacts many of us as we're dealing with not only that project, but the whole CREATE project that's impacting all of our wards that is going to be a benefit to the community. I know I didn't see Tom Livingston. I must have came on later, was doing something if he was speaking, but Tom has been a great asset to us in the community in terms of keeping us informed and communicating. And I know the other gentleman, I'm sorry I didn't see your name, said meet the 26th and 6, but I know that is the floor and definitely not the ceiling. And so I know Tom Livingston himself, through his works, have been already working with different organizations in the community to prepare people, as we should be doing throughout the city when projects come, making sure they're prepared to work before even the work starts. So I want to thank Tom and his team for that. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that they're doing this on this site as well. I just put out, as we continue to build here, we want to make sure we continue to keep our tracks cleaned. And I know other railroads own those, but and CSX has been a partner. And when we're calling them and it's something that's impacted by them, they're getting those railroads clean, but we want to make sure that their other partners are doing the same thing as we do this development here. So again, just commend Alderman Stephanie Coleman, who I no doubt is going to hold them to even doing more than the 26 and 6 in terms of the hiring. So I am definitely in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I don't see any other hands up with questions or comments. Can I get a motion to move do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Raymond Lopez moves do pass. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as revised. Congratulations, Alderman Coleman, and look forward to continuing to work with you and our committee for projects in your ward. All right, bottom of page 2. Document number 20559 T1, First Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address 1701 West Division Street. The change request B33 Community Shopping District to B32 Community Shopping District. Let's see. Tim Barton, I believe, is going to be the attorney on this. Tim.
How's that?
Tim Barton, I hear you.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tim Barton. I am an attorney in the law office of Tom Raines. Here today representing John Kelly, the owner of the property and the applicant for this rezoning. Just to be clear at the outset, this is a voluntary downzoning. The property was rezoned to its current B3-3 zoning designation as a type 1 amendment in 2017. The applicant is now seeking to amend that zoning and to replace the plans that were approved with it. The original scope of the project called for the renovation of an existing building and the construction of a 5-story, 8-unit rear addition to it. This work required the increase in the FAR and a change in the base zoning from B3-2 to B3-3, the current zoning. The architectural plans for that renovation and the new construction were approved as part of that type 1 rezoning. The scope of the work now, though, has changed and is limited only to the renovation of the existing building, since work on projects can only proceed with plans approved with the rezoning amendment. The original type 1 ordinance for this property has to now be updated. Therefore, only the B3-2 zoning will be necessary, and it will only be according to renovation plans. There won't be any new construction. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Alderman Laspada is aware of this map amendment. He is in support of it. And
We do have a letter of support from Alderman Laspada on file.
Okay.
All right, questions, comments, committee members? Tim, I have one quick comment. Since it is a downzoning, interestingly enough, from a B3-3 type 1, is it the same applicant? Or
yes. Yes. Just so the scope of the project just changed.
Yeah, okay.
But he was the original applicant.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions, comments. Can I get a motion, move do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Alderman David Moore moves do pass. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right.
Thank you.
Now we're on the top of middle of page 3. Document number 20546, 41st Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address 5366 through 5370 West Devon Avenue and 6401 North Central Avenue. This change request is a B11 neighborhood shopping district to a B31 community shopping district. Mark Kupiak.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Mark Kupiak. I'm an attorney with offices at 77 West Washington. I represent the applicant. Subject property is at the corner of Devon and Central in the downtown Edgebrook neighborhood. The zoning change we're asking for is from a B1-1 to a B3-1. Many of the properties across the street and across the alley are already zoned B3. So actually this zoning would be very compatible. The zoning change would be very compatible with other zoning districts up and down Devon Avenue. Looking to establish a liquor store with retail sales of packaged liquors. I would note the plan is an upscale liquor store featuring select wines and craft beers. The applicant currently operates a similar liquor store on Lincoln Avenue, which was very successful, very popular, and looking to expand into this Edgebrook neighborhood. It's an existing building and a vacant store, formerly a mattress store, which has actually been vacant for some time. There's been an extensive community process in connection with this application. Alderman Napolitano has a ward advisory committee, and he's had two meetings, and this case has been before them on two separate occasions, well-attended virtual meetings, and the plan has been explained, and the committee has voted to support it. I believe the alderman has also taken an online survey where the vast majority of the people have in fact supported this application. And the applicant has separately gone to the Chamber of Commerce and solicited their support along with a couple other neighborhood organizations. Not only has this mattress store been gone for some time, but more recently during the pandemic, there was a Starbucks across the street that closed down and has announced that it will not be reopening. So the neighbors actually were anxious to see this particular site develop. So with that, I believe you have a letter from Alderman Napolitano, and I would ask for your support.
Okay, we do have a letter of support from Alderman Napolitano. Questions by committee members?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman
All
Lopez.
right. Alderman Ray Lopez moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed. Now we'll be in the bottom of page 3. Mark, are you still there?
Still here? Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read this into the record, but I understand we're going to take a motion to defer this item. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so document number 20421, 14th Ward, ordinance was referred on June 17th of 2020. The common address 3330 through 3356 West 51st Street. The change request M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to M22 Light Industry District. Hearing that the item is being deferred by the applicant. Can I get a motion to defer this previously read item?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
That is Alderman Raboyes moves to defer this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no objection, this item has been deferred. All right,
Thank you.
top of page 4. Item number 2055 20552 T1 25th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Change request, or I'm sorry, common address 1744 West 21st Place, and the change request RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to a B23 neighborhood mixed use district. Let's see, our attorney is Jimena Castro.
Hi, how's everyone? Good morning.
Good. Let's hear
So,
on 21st Place.
yes. So my name is Jimena Castro. I'm a zoning attorney at Acosta Esker, here representing the matter at 1744 West 21st Place. The property is located on the north side of West 21st Place between Paulina Street to the east and Wood Street to the west. It is a 3,125 square foot lot, improved with a 2.5-story existing residential building that includes 4 dwelling units and a detached 2-car garage. It is currently zoned RT4. We are proposing to zone it to a B23, which B23 is seen in the area, actually on the same block as well. And we're rezoning it to add 2 dwelling units to the basement for a total of 6 dwelling units on the property. And everything will remain the same in the building in terms of no additions added. We will be adding demolishing the garage, and we will be doing a 3-car surface parking lot in the rear. And we have a letter of support from the alderman. We did meet with the alderman and his committee in November. And we will also be committing to, with the alderman's office, since this is a 6-unit building, it's not quite crossing the threshold of required ARO, but we will be committing to record a covenant against the property to provide 1 affordable unit in accordance to the average median income of 60% under the ARO.
All right, thank you, Jimena. I know we have a letter of support from Alderman Cicho Lopez, but I saw him on the call. Alderman Cicho Lopez, would you like to comment on the 21st Place application, sir?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just want to commend the applicant, as they said, even though they are not required to provide any affordability under the current ARO, since it's under 10 units, but I want to commend them for working with us to provide an affordable housing unit that is, especially now during these times. So I want to commend them to working with us and the community, and we're supportive of this project. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions for the applicant or the Alderman? Hearing none, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same?
So moved.
To determine quorum.
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Alderman David Moore moves to pass. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. Now we're on the bottom of page 4, document number 20558, T1, 25th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address, 2238 West 24th Street. Change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. We also have Jimena Castro on this.
Yes. Once more for the record, my name is Jimena Castro. I'm a zoning attorney at Acosta Esgar, here representing the applicant. As the chairman said, for the property at 2238 West 24th Street. This case is similar as the last case. It's located on the north side of West 24th Street between Levitt to the east and Oakley to the west. Again, it is a 2.5-story residential building with 4 dwelling units and a 2-car surface parking lot in the rear. It is currently zoned RS3. We are zoning it to a B23, like in the last case, and we will be adding 2 dwelling units for a total of 6 dwelling units. 2 of the dwelling units will be in the basement. And we will be adding a 3rd-story dormer to increase the size of the units, and we will be getting a variation to reduce setbacks and also variation to reduce any additional required parking. We did meet with the alderman and the alderman's office for their ZAB meeting. We do have a lot of their support. And like in the last case, this is a 6 dwelling unit building, but we are committed to providing affordable units in the 25th Ward. And the applicant will be recording a covenant against the property to provide a affordable unit, 60% AMI under the ARO.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Alderman Citro Lopez, you want to comment on 24th Street?
Yeah, no, similar situation. So again, I know that it's taking us a minute to make sure that we create a covenant, and I want to again appreciate the collaboration of the applicant to work with us on this project. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Órale, chico.
Oh, okay, just one question for the Alderman, actually on both of them, or for Jimena. What is what you said about parking? So talk to me, what is the parking on the 24th Street? How many parking spaces?
So currently there's a 2 surface parking lot. There's 2 parking spaces in the rear, surface parking, and we will be adding another parking space. Anything that's
3,
will be a total of
3. Right, 3 for 6. And then on the, I'm sorry, on the one on 21st, is it the same setup or what?
The one on the 21st Street, there's a 2-car garage. We will be demolishing it and doing 3 surface parking lot for 3 spaces.
0.5.
And again,
yeah.
And then, getting a variation for anything else that's required.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from, let's see, we have Alderman Ray Lopez with a question. Raymond?
Thank you, Chairman. I just have one quick question. When it comes to community covenants, like the one that our colleague has achieved with the developer, are those also incorporated in the ordinance, or who are those managed with by DPD?
Those are not even managed by DPD. It's a private covenant between, in this case,
So best faith effort.
Or in the alderman, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's recorded against the property.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right. The city is not part of that transaction, though, even though it's recorded on the deed.
Okay. The reason I asked was if there was some sort of kind of uniformity when it comes to these covenants. I know we hear them often in various projects, so maybe that's something that we can look at some point down the road.
Thank
Okay,
you.
move to pass, Chairman.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands up. Alderman Ray Lopez moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you very much. Now we're on the top of page 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Item number 20538, 26th Ward. Ordinance was referred to on November 16th of 2020. Common address, 2156 North Kimball Avenue. And the change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to a B11 Neighborhood Shopping District. We have Dean Marigus. Dean? Do we see Dean on the call?
He is here, Chairman. One sec.
All right.
Actually, Chairman, he might have slipped off when I promoted to panelist. So if you want to move on, we'll get him back.
Okay, thank you, Bennett. We're going to hold on that item in the 26th Ward on Kimball, but we're going to stay in the 26th Ward. Document number 20560. The ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. This common address, 2740 West Chicago Avenue. The change request, C12 Neighborhood Commercial District to a B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. And we have John Fritchie. John.
Chairman, good to see you, at least virtually.
Yeah, nice to see you, John.
Happy to be here before the committee. As you stated, this is a rezoning for the property located at 2740 West Chicago Avenue. The rezoning sought is from a C12 Neighborhood Commercial District to a B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. The zoning change is sought for use only. This is an existing 4-story building that presently has vacant ground floor commercial space that the owners have tried to make a good faith effort to lease for about 2 years now, in an attempt then to provide additional housing stock and to eliminate the vacant storefront. We've worked with Alderman Maldonado, who's been very helpful, and reached an agreement that with this rezoning, the property will be set up for lease for residential use only, not for work, live, or anything else. We know of no objection to this. I believe that the Alderman has submitted a letter to the committee. I spoke with him as recently as this morning, and we are set to go, assuming we have the blessing of the committee.
Thank you, John. We do have an email received this morning in support from Alderman Maldonado's office. Do we have questions by committee members? Can I get a motion to pass?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Call that was used to determine quorum. That was Alderman Raboyes moves to pass. Objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I hope everybody has a good holiday and please stay safe.
Thank you, John. You too.
All right. I believe we're now moving to the top of page 6. Item number 20539, 36th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address is 2618 North Oak Park Avenue. Change request, RS2 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to an RS3 Residential Unit Detached House District. We have Andrea Durone.
Correct. Good morning. Andrea Durone on behalf of the owner, Keyman Real Estate LLC. This is a request to rezone from RS2 to RS3 for the property located at 2618 North Oak Park. This property is currently in an RS2 zoning area, but it is surrounded by RS3 to the south and to the west. Additionally, there is another property located on the same block, just one block north, that has been zoned RS3. The purpose of the rezoning is to build new construction. It will still be a single family home within the guidelines of RS3. The plans that my client had obtained are just a little bit outside of the RS2 zoning with regards to the footprint on the lot line, which is why we're requesting the rezoning. It will continue to be a single family home with a detached garage.
All right. So Alderman Gill, are you on? Is Gil Villegas on the call?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so this is the Oak Park Avenue item. I think you're in support, are you?
Yes, I am, Chairman. I am supportive of this.
Okay, all right, well, we got an email to that effect, or we just talked, and any questions from committee members? Hearing no questions, comments, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine?
Alderman Cardona, do pass.
Alderman Cardona moves to pass on the item. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed.
Thank you, committee members. Happy holidays.
Okay, we're going to stay in the 36th Ward. Item number 20556. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. The common address is 2052 North Laramie Avenue. The change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to an RT4 Residential 2-Flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District. We have, I gotta wait for his photo. Nick Patikas or Daniel Box? Last time
No, it's Nick Patikas today.
Nick, all right. You surprised me last time, Nick, so let's move to the Laramie application, please.
Okay, thank you. Again, for the record, Nick Patikas from the Law Offices of Sam Banks. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and property owner, Mr. Sergio Torres. The existing property at 2052 North Laramie is about 4,700 square feet in size. It's improved with a 2-unit residential building. The owner is proposing a zoning change from RS3 to RT4 in order to permit an additional dwelling unit, so an increase from 2 units to 3 units. The owner had actually worked directly with Alderman Villegas prior to coming to our office. My office then reconnected with the alderman and secured a letter of support, which I believe was already sent over to the committee. There's no other change to the building except for the build out of the basement as a garden level unit. No expansion other than that.
We have a letter of support from Alderman Villegas. Gil, do you want to say a few words on this one?
No, sir, it's very simple.
Okay.
Zoning change. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Alderman. Nick, just from my question, what are the parking spaces here on this one?
So it's actually a wide lot, so we're actually able to provide the additional parking space, even though it's not technically required per code. Practically speaking, there will be 3 parking spaces at the rear of the lot.
Thank you, Nick. Questions for the alderman or the applicant?
Move to pass, Chairman.
Hearing none, I have Alderman Pat Dowell that moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Nick. We'll stay with Nick on item number 20550 T1, 46th Ward. The ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address, 4511 through 4523 North Clark Street. The change request is a C12 Neighborhood Commercial District to a B33 Community Shopping District. We have Nick here, but before we bring Nick on, just to remind our committee members, we had 8 public speakers in the public comment period that were opposed to this project. Most of them, I believe, lived on the adjacent neighbor residential street of Dover. I think there was more than one opposition, but some neighboring owners on Clark Street also. And in addition to that, we had 18 letters opposed that were emailed to our office, including a petition. So
They all received it.
and my committee members have already received it. So why don't you proceed on this project on Clark Street?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Again, for the record, Nick Fatikas from the law offices of Sam Banks. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and property owner, 4511 Clark Acquisitions LLC. The applicant is proposing to redevelop the subject property that contains about 16,858 square feet of total lot area with a new 5-story mixed-use building. The proposed building would contain about 3,400 square feet of grade level retail space and a total of 56 residential units. The subject property is within the transit-oriented development range of the Ravenswood Metro Stop, the Montrose CTA, and the Wilson CTA. And based on that, we're asking for a parking reduction from the 56 spaces to 28 spaces. So it's a 50% parking reduction based on transit-oriented development. The proposed building, again, will be 5 stories in height, measuring 58 feet per zoning. We began the process, the community review process with Alderman Kappelman's office about 18 months ago. During the time, we've worked with the Uptown United Development Partners, the Clark Street Block Club, as well as the 46th Ward Development Council. And it's my understanding that all 3 of those groups issued letters of support for the program. We also, again, worked hand in hand with the Alderman's office and made a handful of changes to our program. We also made commitments to some local existing business owners in the immediate area, specifically the Black Ensemble Theater, and we're offering part of our retail space at a significantly reduced rent to allow artists an opportunity to have that space along Clark Street. So although and we know that there's some opposition to the program, there also is quite a bit of support that's been garnered over the last 18 months. I believe Alderman Kappelman has issued a letter of support. I believe he's also on the line, and I will yield the floor to the Alderman from here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Dow.
Does the attorney have anything to share with us by screen, pictures or to get a sense of the neighborhood contacts or anything other than the verbal description?
Chairman, again, Nick Fatikas for the record. Our project architect, Mr. Horniff, is signed in and on the call. He may be able, if he's promoted, he may be able to share the screen to at least give renderings and maybe the slides of the plans.
All right.
And then if the Alderman could point out because I don't have a context of visual, I'm not sure what the issues are with the constituent.
Right. All right. So Bennett, are we promoting the architect here on this one?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
Would you identify yourself if that's the architect?
Yes, this is William Roden-Hornoff. I'm with 2RZ. We're the architect for this project.
Okay. Do you have any of the plans to be able to share with committee members?
I do. I apologize. I'm going to take a minute to share.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Dow. All right. All right. How about committee members? Are we all, can you see it on your screens?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then let's start with what you want to present to the committee.
Apologize. Let me get this set up. So this is 4511 North Clark. It's a 5-story building with, as Nick had mentioned, there's retail along Clark. It spans from 4511 to 4523. As Nick had mentioned, it's about 3,400 square feet.
I think your presentation is yet to link up to the committee yet.
Got it. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hornoff, if you can stop sharing and then share just the PDF, to say just the application and just share that PDF file.
Let me try that again.
Point of information, Chairman.
Point of information, Alderman Ray Lopez.
Thank you. Chairman, I just have a quick question while we wait for this to load. You know, when we met in person, we would oftentimes have these on the PowerPoints and things of that nature. Are applicants still providing the committee with these documents and things of that nature since we've been doing this via Zoom? So I think it would be easier if it was presented either with the agenda or managed by the committee staff on the day of.
The schematics were not sent to the committee. When they're not sent to the committee, unless we are in a situation like we're on today, you know, we're not requiring it, but I know most of our plan commission items generally have some schematic that was presented at plan commission and are readily available to the committee members upon asking. But
is that something that could be handled internally, or
well,
we
recommend that, you know, even like when we were in the chamber, we recommend, you know, to
visual aids,
a visual like we're asking for now. And I think we probably should check off the boxes on some of these larger ones. And especially if we've got questions by resident groups or, you know, this one looked like it was going to be contentious. So we probably, for the benefit of the committee, should have had these in advance. But we will, that Nicole's writing this stuff down.
Thank you, Nicole.
And, you know, just cracking the whip, I think, as we move forward. All right.
Thank you, Chairman.
So, William?
Thank you. Can everyone see this now?
I think we can.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So as I had mentioned, it's a 5-story building. There's retail at the first floor, of course, and 4 stories of residential above. There's about 3,400 square feet of retail spanning from, for the most part, from 4511 to 4523. The residential entry is on the north corner of our lot. So as I just mentioned, it spans from 4511 to 4523. The building itself is set back both on the front and the rear. The rear setback meets the 30 feet requirement at the residential level. And then the front, as you can see, has a series of bays of units that move in and out, but on average, or I should say at minimum, they're 8 feet back off the lot line. Typical floor plans for the apartments. This is the retail level and then the apartments themselves. There are 56 units, a mix of 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, and some studios. So from a floor plan standpoint, the retail again is off of Clark. Residential entry is to the north. Parking, there are 28 parking spaces that are accessed off the alley. And then loading is also off the alley. And then this would be a typical layout of the units. Like I said, there's a mix of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and studios. More floor plans. There is a small habitable roof deck. The Clark elevation. So the series of balconies and decks. This is something that through the community process that was asked for, that we provide more outdoor space. So because the building is set back on at the second floor on both sides of the building, there are terraces for the apartments on the west face, and then the 30-foot setback on the east face. The section itself of the building. So Clark is here, the alley is here, of course. So that's sort of a nutshell of the building itself. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right. So I'm going to go back to Alderman Dow. I know you asked a question about context with the block. Alderman, do you want to? Alderman,
Yes, thank you, Mr.
repeat the
Chairman.
question?
I'm just trying to understand the context. And then I did a Google search of the address, and everything in that block is one story, basically, or maybe two. Is this the character of that strip generally beyond this block, or is the block sort of, the strip sort of mixed in height?
Well, if you look at the address, you're absolutely right. The buildings that we would be replacing are one-story buildings. But the buildings to the north and the south have much more height to them. A block down, there are several 4- and 5-story buildings. And then across the way, there are a couple story buildings. And then right next to us is a 2-story building. And then 2 doors down is a 3- or 4-story building.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just trying to get a sense of the surroundings. I appreciate you taking the time to show this. And if the concerns of the residents could be described again, just so now that I'm seeing the building, what were their concerns?
Well, I can speak for some of the complaints. We do get a lot of complaints from the residents on abutted from the alley side. The scale of the building was not consistent in their minds with the corridor. And I think in a lot of ways they felt that particular block club did not feel they were part of the process. I think more so once COVID hit, but I think those are the issues: the scale, the density, the character, and the other question about I think there was a criticism about 28 parking spaces, I believe, that in and out, one entry exit off the alley. I did note, my staff noted that the alley, one applicant talked about the sewage in his property. We did an alley search, and I think that is a green alley. It's a relatively new a new alley for the abutting properties on Dover. So with that, Alderman, can we get a couple more questions from committee members? Alderman Dow,
You've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Osterman has his hand up.
Did Alderman Kappelman discuss this?
He hasn't testified yet. Would it be the benefit to the committee members?
I think
Alderman Kappelman now?
our colleagues would at least like to hear the Alderman's vision for this stretch. And then I got a couple questions.
All right, Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the notification about the process used for this, notices about these meetings were in my newsletter, posted on Facebook, posted on Twitter, placed on my ward website, and on various neighborhood blogs. Over the years, I've visited with every business along Clark Street, and I've encouraged them to sign up for my newsletter, and they were all given my private cell phone number. So when it comes to obtaining notices about ward matters, I can only encourage them to please read my weekly newsletters. Regarding this fear that this one upzone would cause an avalanche of upzones along Clark, I hear that fear a lot, which might be one of the reasons why residents on Dover Street have consistently voted down every zoning request ever made along Clark and Wilson Avenues in the 9 years I've been alderman. However, that has never occurred in other parts of the ward that received an upzone. In addition, the 46 Ward Zoning and Development Committee which reviews all zoning requests for projects valued at over 10 million, they take each request separately. I've never heard any zoning committee member state the need to upzone a property because another property on the block was also upzoned. From listening to residents on Dover, the major fear appeared to be focused on density. And I fully understand this concern because a 6-story apartment building was constructed just east of my condo, and neighbors in my 16-unit condo building were pleasantly surprised that none of our fears about that development ever came true. On Clark Street, there's a 5-story building at 4420 North Clark. At 4421, there's a 4-story. At 4650, there's a 4-story. At 4717, there's a 4-story. 4733, 4-story. 4747, 4-story. And on the 4800 block, there's a 5-story building. I think there's might be 2. Regarding the request for support of an art district envisioned by Jackie Taylor of Black Ensemble Theater, the developer, just as Nick said, is meeting with Jackie Taylor on a regular basis and is working out the details for a live-in workspace within this development for an interested Black-owned business owner that will complement the incredible mission that Black Ensemble Theater has. And it would be done in a manner that would not require any financial investment from them, which I believe makes it a win-win all the way around. Regarding Dover Street neighbors' objection to this project and the formation of Clark Street Block Club, my concern is that Dover Street neighbors' process never allowed residents on Clark Street to vote on zoning matters on their own street. There's an element of fairness that's missing here. And even if Dover Street neighbors allowed residents on Clark to have any say on matters on their own street, their bylaws allow 1 vote for each building. And given that there are no single-family homes on Clark, and the exceptionally high number of single-family homes on Dover, residents on Clark would have to defer to single-family homeowners to make their decisions. So it's not surprising then that residents on Clark started their own block club in order to have some say about zoning matters on their own street. This block club participates in activities with Sheridan Park Neighbors Association, the Uptown Chicago Commission, and the 46th Ward Zoning Development Committee. Nevertheless, it was the 46th Ward Zoning and Development Committee, not the Clark Street Block Club, that voted to support this development. Of the 5 block clubs located within Sheridan Park, 3 of them voted in support of this project. Regarding a Clark Street petition signed by business owners stated they signed this petition to stop this project because they feared their rents would go up. Their rents are currently low because there is a record level of vacant storefronts, and over half of the buildings along this 4-block strip have been placed on the market. That's a sign of a retail corridor in very serious trouble. These businesses cannot afford to do without less foot traffic that's desperately needed for this corridor. More foot traffic can only help businesses, as is the goal of any retail corridor study. Pressing a pause on this zoning change until a retail corridor study occurs will not change the fact that the Clark Street retail corridor has been heading in a rapid downward spiral for the past several years, long before COVID ever entered the picture. A few years ago, I joined with former Alderman Pawar to request the use of TIF funds for this study, and we continue to wait for this to occur. But I can't imagine any study suggesting less density and fewer people would help boost the economy along this retail corridor that's now on life supports. The 46th Ward Zoning Development Committee, in a vote, they passed this in a vote of 15-7. This is an overwhelming support. And in the end, the zoning committee's approval for this proposal was for the following reasons. Number 1, it provided badly needed foot traffic to a retail corridor that was in desperate need of more customers. Number two, they fully supported the need for a retail corridor study along Clark and also believed that such a study would strongly encourage more density and more foot traffic, which this development would provide. Number three, the developer's request for an upzone added only 8.5 feet to the height that was currently allowed by its current zoning. But that allows for a project that would add 6 units of affordable housing, with many of them being 2 bedrooms, which is a far cry from the high number of micro units that have come into this area. The zoning committee appreciated that the developer created a setback for the apartment units on the back of the project for the benefits of the residents on Dover. It's located in a transit-served area that typically calls for higher density rather than less. The developer agreed at the meeting to work with Black Ensemble Theater to get a Black-owned business into that retail space, which was also an incredible thing to have happen. And they believed that the design was striking and complemented Black Ensemble Theater's design as well. So, I mean, with all that work that was done, I asked that my colleagues support the decision of the 46-ward Zoning and Development Committee.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Osterman.
I appreciate the explanation, and I think the extensive inclusiveness that Alderman Kappelman puts into his zoning process, and giving out his cell phone, that's quite something. Let me just say real quickly, I think about the stretch, because I think this stretch is between myself and Alderman Tunney's ward, and I think we travel it frequently. I think that there's a natural tension between residential communities with single family homes and commercial streets like Clark Street. And I think a lot of times there's fear of what can happen. I think I have Andersonville to the north, and there's a coexistence of residential small 2-flats with a thriving business community. The stretch where this residential development is going is one that, as Alderman Kappelman just pointed out, I think is had a very difficult time with retail economic development going back for a couple decades. I think a lot of the advancements that Alderman Kappelman has championed with public transportation, and I'll also say safety along Wilson Avenue and Clark Street, has kind of moved the community in a positive direction. I think adding more residents in this area, I think is going to help the overall foot traffic, as he points out, which will help the businesses in the community, but also create some more housing options for this area. So I appreciate the work that him and his committee have done. And I stand in support of this ordinance today. And I think once it's built, I think the neighbors will all coexist together. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Walter Burnett.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of the presentation when it was presented. Was there any affordable housing with this project?
The Alderman Kappelman said there's 6 units affordable in the project.
And how many units is it?
58.
58?
50. No, I'm sorry, 56.
56.
56 units, 28 parking spaces, I believe.
It's following the ARO to the letter of the law.
Okay, that's great. So, around Thanksgiving, I had the opportunity to visit up in that area. I actually got a relative that live up there. This community is so diverse, and there's so many people of need of affordable housing in that community. It's like a whole nother world that folks that live on the west side and the south side could not imagine how the north side is. The north side is one of the most diverse communities ethnically and economically in the city of Chicago. And they definitely need a diversity of housing in that community. And everyone lives together in that neighborhood and have been doing so for many years, right? But also at a time when we are losing population in the city tenfold, and it's having an adverse effect on our economy. For a small increase in densities like this, I don't believe, I can understand if it was a 20-story building or 30-story building, but this is not a very large change in the community. And we all as citizens need to recognize when we don't have density in our city, we all suffer. Quite honestly, that means we have less people putting into the pot, and it has an adverse effect on all of us. I know folks tend to be somewhat selfish. They tend to care only about themselves, but sometimes we have to look beyond ourselves and think about the greater good of our society and our community, because aggressively, all of us need to start thinking about how do we get that critical mass in our society to sustain ourselves and be competitive with other cities across the country, to be able to attract more dollars to our city. I'm so frightened to see what our census numbers are going to look at when they come in, it will have an effect on our city when those numbers come in. But my feeling is the more people we have putting in the pot, the better it is for all of us to deal with all of the other resources that we need in our community. So I commend Alderman Kappelman for taking a small step to increase, to contribute to the density challenges that we have in our city, and I commend his community for accepting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I have one more hand up, I believe. Alderman Brian Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in support of this project and I'll be voting in favor. And I appreciate Alderman Kappelman outlining the notification efforts that he made. I believe all of us go over and above the requirements in the zoning code and the Open Meetings Act to try and spread the word when there's an issue to be resolved by this committee. But anytime objections and complaints are raised about that, I think it's important to just put it on the record. So let me just ask Alderman Kappelman, were you in full compliance with all notification requirements and posting requirements by both the Open Meetings Act and the zoning code for this matter?
Yes.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
All right, I think Alderman Dow might have another question or clarification.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I just wanted to also commend Alderman Kappelman for giving a really full explanation of the process. You know, I always say there's 3 sides to a story, and it was really good to hear the full assessment that he's provided this morning. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to pass on this item.
All right, seeing no hands up, questions or comments, Alderman Pat Dowell moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing no objection, the item is passed. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
And Nick. All right, moving on to page 7, document number 20544. 49th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Address, common address, 7630 through 7638 North Rogers Avenue. Change request, residential business plan development number 977 to B35 Community Shopping District. We have Warren Silver. Warren, proceed on this item on Rogers Avenue, please.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Warren Silver, Silver Law Office PC, and of counsel to Brown, Udell, Pomerantz, and Del Rahim Limited. We are here today representing the applicant Rogers Roman 1 LLC. This parcel is currently subject to residential business plan development 977, which long ago expired, but was never removed under the process of 1713-0612E of the zoning ordinance. The applicant is now seeking to have that long ago lapsed plan development removed and to have the property revert back to its underlying zoning of B3-5. We reviewed the matter with Alder Haddon's office, and I think she's still on the call on the committee, and by all means, if you want to speak to it, but we were advised that we have the support of her office. So,
Thank you, Warren. I know Alderman Haddon's on the call or on the Zoom. Alderman Haddon. Maria?
looks like she's muted.
Must be. Do we have a letter of support from Alderman Haddon? Warren, did you get a letter of support from Alderman Haddon?
We did, and
Okay,
sorry.
Find it, I
hold on.
can.
Okay,
There she
Marie.
is.
Sorry, Chair.
Alderwoman Haddon is on. Maria?
Hello.
Rogers.
Yes. Just wanted to, definitely in support of this move. I'll say this is really procedural. Right now, this was a fun research project. I want to thank the Department of Planning and Development and Patrick Murphy's team for helping us to kind of unpack this. But this is really a correction. So the underlying zoning and this property, we're just returning it to the underlying zoning. There was a planned development there that never moved forward far longer ago than I was here. So we had community meetings about this, kind of weighing some of our options. We had the Department of Planning and Development actually present other options to us if we were going to go through the process of a zoning change. And after extensive community input, some of the expert input, and working with the property owner, we determined that this was the best route, just returning it to the underlying zoning. So I asked my colleagues for your support in this procedural matter that honestly should have been done ultimately by ordinance. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Questions for the Alderwoman or the applicant?
No questions. So moved by Alderman David Moore.
No questions. I don't see any hands. Alderman David Moore moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going back. I think we have Dean Marigus on the line.
How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
Dean.
Oh, Dean, your voice is a little lower this morning. What's going on, buddy?
I didn't make it to the choir practice.
Okay, so we will now go to page 5, the top of page 5. Document number 20538, 26th Ward ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. This common address, 2156 North Kimball Avenue. Change request, RS3 residential single unit detached house district to a B11 neighborhood shopping district. Okay, Dean Marigus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Dean Marigus, I'm the attorney for the applicant. This purpose is to allow for the packaged good liquor sales as an accessory use to the existing retail food sales grocery store. This grocery store has been in the neighborhood for many, many years. It's a small neighborhood grocery store that has been in the community for over 10 years. And we are seeking the zoning change to have beer and wine only. We've worked very closely with Alderman Maldonado and the community, and we have submitted to the committee our letter of support from the alderman. I will now take any questions on this matter.
Thank you, Dean. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Maldonado. Are there any questions for the attorney? Okay, so no more questions, comments. Can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Alderman David Moore moves to pass. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you very much. Happy
We only
holidays.
have the one. All right.
Back to the middle of
Okay,
page 7.
back to the middle of page 7. Item number 20548, 11th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th, 2020. Common address, 701 West 37th Street. Also 3700 to 3702 South Union Avenue. The change request, RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. David Media is the attorney, I believe, or
Oh, am I on?
yes, you are, David.
Good morning, committee. Good morning.
Okay,
my name
good
is
afternoon.
David.
Good afternoon to you too. So,
Oh, well, I've been on since 10.
yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. I'd like to thank the committee for its time. My name is Dave Medea. I'm looking to have the property at 701 West 37th Street or 3700 to 3702 South Union Street, rezoned from R3 to RT4 to construct 2 new single-family homes with garages. The current site, there's a building built on 2 lots. It's been probably vacant for over 25 years. And I have, the alderman conducted a community meeting and everybody was for it. I think the alderman has submitted a letter to you with his approval of it. I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
We have received his letter of support from Alderman Thompson. Did you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we did get a letter of support from Alderman Thompson. Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's ask some questions. We have Alderman Burnett on this item. Walter?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to ask, it looked like you saying that you're taking a lot with 2 properties on it and you're gonna make a single family home out of it?
Oh, no, 2.
The other way around.
2 lots. You're gonna take 2 properties and make a 2-flat?
No, it's right now, it's a building built on 2 lots. It's a 2-story building built on 2 lots. You're going to tear the building down and build 2 brand new 2-story single-family homes.
Oh, you're building 2 homes. Okay. All right, I got it. All right, fantastic.
Thank you, Walter. Alderman Raboyes.
Mr. Chairman, I see Dave Medea on that side. Just want to say hello to him and good to see that he's still working.
Yes, Alderman. Nice to see you.
All righty. I don't have any more hands up, questions, comments. With that, does Alderman Raboyes make the motion to
So move.
pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? And that he does. Any objections to Alderman Raboyes' motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman.
Bottom of page 7. Document number 20557 T1. 19th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. This common address, 2501 through 2511 West 103rd Street. Change request, RS2 residential single unit detached house district to a C11 neighborhood commercial district. We have John Brand on this one. John?
Yes, good afternoon and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, my name is John Brand and I am the owner of the property located at 2501 through 11 West 103rd Street. I'm also a resident and a small business owner in the Beverly Morgan Park neighborhood in the 19th Ward. As you stated, I am respectfully seeking to change the zoning on the property from an RS2 residential single unit district to a C1-1 neighborhood commercial district for the purposes of converting an existing vacant 2-story building into a multi-unit modern tech wired office building. A C1-1 designation is required to meet the use standards to establish the office use within the existing 2-story building and with existing on-site parking. The conversion project includes enhancements to the exterior landscaping, and we think will materially improve the aesthetics of this particular stretch of 103rd, which is just west of Western Avenue. The project and the plans have been shared with and supported by Alderman Matthew O'Shea, and we've also shared the plans and received support from the residents surrounding the property. I'd also like to mention that we've submitted a substitute narrative and plan that mention is at the request of Department of Planning and Development staff. With that, I'd be happy to
Okay,
answer any
so-
questions that the committee may
Move
have.
to accept the
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
substitute narrative.
Oh, look at you, look at you. And that is, so Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative plans one application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Who could have Alderman Raboyes, right? So, all right, hearing no objections, the substantive narrative plans are accepted. Is that the extent of your testimony, Mr. Brand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can we hear from Alderman Matt O'Shea on this one? Matt?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to point out that Ariel was probably the kid that sat in the first seat raising his hand. I've got the answer, teacher.
Nerd.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm not sure he was that. I'm not sure he was that astute in the first row. You know, knowing his career in the 44th ward.
I sat in the closet.
All right, continue, Matt.
Chairman, yes, I am in full support of this change in zoning. Mr. Brand has had a very successful career in my community of investing money and turning blighted areas into positive areas in the community. This was originally Ridge Lutheran Church, built in 1946. About 20 years ago, it became a alternative private school and has sat vacant for the last several years, a real eyesore in the West Beverly community. Mr. Brand led a group purchasing the property, and this is an exciting project that I think will be a big boon to the 19th Ward community, and I stand in support. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Any questions for the Alderman, the applicant? All right, so I need a motion to accept, well,
Alderman Cardona, do pass.
the substantive narrative and plans.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so Alderman Raboyes moves to pass with the substantive narrative and plans. Any objections to that? Hearing none, it's passed with the substantive narrative and plans. Good luck, Mr. Brand. Sounds like an exciting project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, top of page 8. Document number 20551, T1. 34th Ward, ordinance was referred on November 16th, 2020. Common address, 955 West 115th Street. And the change request, M11 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to an RT4 Residential 2-flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District. We have Jason Brown on this application. Jason, are you with us? There you are. Okay.
I'm here, Chairman. Thank you, and thank you to the committee members. I'm the construction manager for Habitat for Humanity Chicago, and I am here with Jen Parks, who's our executive director. We are requesting to rezone the property known as 955 West 115th Street from M11 to RT4. It is a vacant former industrial site that we would like to develop into a 22 unit development with townhomes and detached garages. The entire development will be affordable housing. We will cap the income of our home buyers at 80% of AMI. And as I said, there'll be off-street parking in covered garages for each of the units. There's mixed zoning on the corridor that this building is on now, but there is a lot of residential in the area, and there is RT4 just down the block. And we have also received a letter of support from Alderman Austin of the 34th Ward. And I will take any questions anybody might have.
We have a letter of support from Alderman Kerry Austin. Questions by committee members? Comments? Walter Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend Alderman Austin and the developer for being progressive that far south, making things to continue to happen and keeping affordable housing on the foreground. So thank you all very much, and compliments to Alderman Austin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions? So let me just say congratulations to Alderman Austin, Jason. So this Habitat is the applicant, correct? And
Yes, Habitat for Humanity Chicago.
And I would say there would be somewhat layers of financing involved with this project too?
Yeah, we have a non-traditional financing model. We do a lot of fundraising through our corporate partnerships, and we get gift and kind services provided. Jen is on the call, can get into more of our financing model, but we have a
No, this is a zoning meeting.
we have a strong history of development.
We all look for creative ways to bring affordability to our community.
Yeah, we have a strong history of development in West Pullman. We've successfully constructed on the order of 30 units a few blocks south of this development. We've been in the community for years, and we plan to be there for quite some time.
Great. All right. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? That was Alderman Burnett, I believe, moves to pass. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed. Congratulations and to you and the team and the Alderwoman. All right.
Thank you all.
Middle of page 8, document number 20549, 50th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address 2640 through 2644 West Pratt Boulevard. Change request B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. I think this would be Yosef Kalman.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for having me today, this afternoon. My name is Yosef Kalman. I am both the co-owner of Signature Acquisitions, the owner of the building, as well as the architect of record for the project. We are seeking to rezone the property from B1-1 to an RT4 zone property. In order to allow us to comply with the bulk and density standards to establish conversion of what is currently a multi-use residential building. It's a 5-unit building with 3 existing commercial spaces on the first floor and 2 existing residential units on the second floor. And with this rezoning, we are looking to be allowed to convert the first floor units into residential. So the whole building will be residential. We're not increasing the size of the building. We're going to be adding some parking spaces in the back to accommodate the parking requirements for that. This is a building that's on a predominantly residentially zoned street, both on this our side of the block as well as across the street. Over 75% of the properties are single family and small 2-flat buildings. This building the commercial spaces have essentially stayed more or less vacant for many years before we acquired it, and the building has gone into disrepair. And our goal is to invest quite a bit into enhancing the building, the overall aesthetic of the front, as well as clean up the back, together with the conversion of the first floor units. We hope that that'll help enhance the overall neighborhood. Myself and my partner both grew up in this neighborhood, so we've seen this building for many years struggle to keep tenants, and so our goal is to convert it into a building that will be stabilized through that conversion. I believe that is.
Mr. Kalman, have you worked with Alderman Silverstein on this project? And
yeah, so we had a meeting on September 22nd with the alderman. As well, we spoke numerous times, but that we had as well a neighborhood meeting with her, and the outcome of that meeting was very positive. I personally did not receive the letter of recommendation, but she verbally was in approval of this during the meeting. I don't know if she sent it to you guys, but during the meeting was positive.
Right. We have not received her letter of support. She is not on the call, but I'm going to ask for questions from committee members or comments. What I will do, I've made outreach to her personally. If it's the will of the committee, we'll pass it at committee and hold it until we do get her affirmation before the council meeting, hopefully tomorrow. How does, committee members? Does that sound like a plan, or any questions for the applicant?
Good plan.
I'm good with it.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Fair to the applicant.
Okay, so Alderman Walter Burnett moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections with that caveat that I, said to the committee? Any objections? Hearing no objections, the item is passed. Again, we will hold that until we hear and affirm the positive support from Alderman Silverstein. Okay. We need to go back. We're going to go back to page 1, I believe.
So that's it, but now we're gonna make sure.
We have Alderman LaSpada on his aldermanic application, so I'm going to read it again into the record. On page 1, item number A8605, First Ward ordinance was referred on September 9th of 2020. Common address 2948 through 54 West Armitage Avenue, also 2001 through 2011 North Humboldt Boulevard. Change request C13 Neighborhood Commercial District to C12 Neighborhood Commercial District. Alderman LaSpada.
Thank you, Chairman. To give some background on this, we spoke about this briefly a couple weeks ago, but this is a zoning amendment for the lot currently improved with Parsons. Really great fried chicken restaurant in our ward. The previous upzoning was sought nearly a decade ago solely to eliminate a parking requirement for the restaurant. During that process, so we moved from C1-2 up to C1-3. This is about moving the zoning back down. So during that process, the business promised to the community to return the zoning back to its previous district. This zoning amendment returns the zoning to its previous district and completes that promise. So we know downzoning can always be a tenuous process to move forward through. It's why we really did our homework on this, talked to multiple community members, talked to the business, were able to get testimony for many different stakeholders. We wanted to make sure that this aldermanic introduction was clearly representative of commitments made by the business to the community, that it was grounded in community interests. But I will add to you all, is very much a rational downzoning. It's very much in line with the broader pattern of zoning you would see along Armitage Avenue. This all being said, I do hope we have favorable consideration by the committee, and I'm also available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Alderman. We have questions for the Alderman. I have one quick question because it was brought up in an earlier application about a covenant on a particular project. Was there a covenant established at all with the property owner, with the community groups to rezone this back to its original C1-2?
In terms of specifically like a legal restricted covenant?
Yeah, I mean, Alderman Lopez, talked about private covenants, and they're only enforceable, not through the city, obviously, but somewhere there was a document that said, hey, we were going to, once we get our licenses, we would rezone the property back. I had my own issues with the rooftops in Lakeview, to get them their licenses for the rooftops, and then we had to go back and downzone. Some did, some didn't. So I had to go back myself and to make sure that they were all downzoned back to the RT4. So that's just a case in point in 44. But do you have, I know you've obviously testified that you were not the alderman at the time, but you do have plenty of backup on the community, but no covenant?
Not a specific legal restricted covenant in that sense, but we do have written confirmation from the owner of Parsons, who was the owner still when the restaurant was getting started. We have testimony from more than a dozen folks who were in those zoning meetings at the time, all of whom have actually agreed, if it were to come to that, that they would sign legal affidavits based off of their commitments and what they heard in those meetings. So everything short of a restricted.
Great. All righty. I wouldn't have brought it up if it wasn't brought up by one of our colleagues just this morning on another project. All right. So can I get a motion to
Move on this matter, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Thank God I have a vice chair as robust as Alderman Raboyes. So Alderman Raboyes moves do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? No objection, the item is passed.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we're going to page 8, back to page 8, I should say, bottom of, but we're looking for Lewis Powell. We don't have him signed in unless it's under a different name. Is that correct, Bennett? We don't have him?
That is accurate, Chairman.
Okay. All right, then we're going to hold on this one too. So let's try to find Lewis so we can get this done today. All right. Top of page 9, number 20463, 24th Ward. Ordinance was referred on July 22nd of 2020. Address 2100 South Pulaski Road. Change request B32 Community Shopping District to a B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. We have Richard Zulke. Richard.
Good morning.
Good
Can you hear
afternoon
me?
to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Richard Zulke, representing the Mejerado family. This is case number 20463. This is a petition to change the present zoning from B32 to B23. On the site, there was a 2-story building, masonry constructed building. We seek to legalize a pre-existing first-floor residential apartment and continue the existing commercial unit with 3 dwelling units above. The property is over 100 years old. It is emphasized that the purpose of this is to maintain an existing use of the property. We've discussed this with the alderman. The alderman had certain concerns that we think he is now satisfied with. Thank you.
All right, Richard. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Michael Scott. Any questions from committee members or comments?
So move.
Hearing none, I have a motion from Alderman Walter Burnett to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Richard.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you. Bottom of page 9, document number 20516, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on October 7th of 2020. Common address 1653 through 1739 West Webster Avenue and 2075 through 2189 North Elston Avenue. The change request, residential business plan development number 1420 to residential business plan development number 1420 as amended. Chris Leach.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. My name is Chris Leach, and I'm an attorney with Ackerman LLP with law offices located at 71 South Wacker Drive. I'm appearing this afternoon on behalf of the applicant, Triangle Square Condominium LLC, in connection with the technical amendment to Residential Business Plan Development 1420. The subject property is located in the 32nd Ward within Subarea C of Residential Business Plan Development number 1420 and bears a common address of 1653-1725 West Webster Avenue. Before presenting the details for the proposed technical amendment, I would like to inform the committee that this application received the unanimous recommendation of the Chicago Plan Commission at its meeting held on November 19th, 2020, And I would respectfully request that the report of proceedings before the Plan Commission, together with all reports and documents previously transmitted to the Department of Planning and Development, be incorporated into and made a part of the record of this proceeding.
So Alderman Raboyes moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
So move.
Any objections? Hearing none, the records are incorporated. Continue on.
Thank you very much. On September 20th, 2018, the Chicago City Council approved PD 1420 for the applicant to construct in Subarea C a 7-story residential building with a height of 98 feet, containing 66 dwelling units and 66 on-site parking spaces. In May of this year, the applicant added an additional 3 units to the PD administratively and shifted 2 units from Subarea A to Subarea C for 71 units to be constructed in Subarea C. The applicant is now before you asking to add 1 additional unit to Subarea C to construct a total of 72 dwelling units and 72 on-site parking spaces for Subarea C. No other changes to the PD are being sought by the applicant except for adding this 1 additional unit. The cost of construction for the project is approximately $28.5 million and will create 160 temporary construction jobs and 3 permanent jobs. The applicant is committed to achieving the MBE participation of 26 and 6 and the 50% goals for the local hiring in the city. And the PD 1420 is also in compliance with the Affordable Housing Ordinance, with providing 9 units on site in Subarea A and a payment in the amount of $3,597,132 has been made to the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund. We believe the proposed amendment to the plan development meets the standards of the Chicago zoning ordinance, and we would request your favorable recommendation. On behalf of the applicant, I would like to thank Alderman Wagaspak, who has received this proposed amendment and has provided us with a letter of no objection to the proposed amendment. And also, we would like to thank the staff of DPD for their hard work on the project, and particularly Emily Thron. Stand ready to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I see Alderman Wagaspak on the call. Alderman.
Thanks, Chairman. I do not have an objection to this change. We did go through this at the Plan Commission, as was noted. I think you were there with me for that long meeting. There are some other infrastructure issues there in the vicinity. This building's right nearby the metro station at Clybourne and Ashland. So I just, we did review, and it seemed that it was consistent with the project as originally proposed. So I just asked for the support of the committee on this agenda item. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions for the Alderman or the applicant? Hearing none, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Alderman Cardona, do pass.
Alderman Cardona moves to pass. Any objections to his motion?
All right.
Hearing none, this item will be passed as revised. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, sir. And then quickly, we're going to go middle of page 8. I skipped over a deferral that I need to write or speak into the record on. That being number 20439, 27th Ward, ordinance was referred on July 22nd of 2020. Common addresses: 1939 through 1959 West Lake Street, 115 through 159 North Damon, 1900 through 1958 West Maypole, 1901 through 1959 West Maypole, 1900 through 1948 West Washington, and 100 through 146 North Walcott. That hasn't been the Plan Commission. It has not been the Plan Commission. Okay, so I need a motion to defer this item.
So move, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Alderman, any questions? Hearing none, Alderman Ray Lopez makes a motion to defer the previously read item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no objections, the item has been deferred. All right. top of page 10. Number 20533 T1, 47th Ward. Ordinance was referred on October 7th of 2020. Common address 3333 through 3335 North Lincoln Avenue and 3336 through 3338 North Marshfield Avenue. Change request B12 Neighborhood Shopping District to a B13 Neighborhood Shopping District. Patrick Turner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Patrick Turner with offices at 33 North LaSalle Street. I represent Chicago 3333 Lincoln LLC, the owner of the subject property. The property is a through lot extending from Lincoln to Marshfield. The applicant is seeking to rezone the property from its existing B1-2 classification to a B1-3 classification in order to erect a side 3-story addition and a rear 3-story addition to the existing 3-story multi-use building. The zoning is sought to allow an increase in the maximum floor area ratio for the proposed addition, as well as to reduce the minimum off-street parking ratio by 100% as a transit-served location, the property being in close proximity to the Paulina Brown line stop.
Patrick, hold on a second. I think the document that was presented is not your project.
I'm sorry, I was concentrating on my presentation. I wasn't paying attention to the exhibit that was on the screen.
All right, let's make sure we get the technical. She's fine. Okay.
You can proceed
Okay.
without the slide.
Yeah, let's keep going on it, and then we'll see if the slide comes up. Patrick.
Okay. We worked with the West Lakeview Neighbors and the Lakeview Chamber of Commerce, as well as Alderman Martin's office, and revised the project and the plans to address their concerns. Alderman Martin has submitted a letter of support to the committee. The matter was originally scheduled for hearing on December 1st, but due to a few minor changes to the plans, the matter was continued to today so staff could review the changes. I am here available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Patrick. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Martin. Are we
I
good?
think we made the presentation the last time. It was
Okay.
it was cut short because
All right. So
planning
we're gonna,
got late.
unless there's committee member questions or a desire, I'm gonna leave it open for questions and comments on this application in 47. Okay, I don't have any hands raised on that. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move.
That is Alderman Raboyes moves to pass on the motion. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the item is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, sir. Now we're skipping. We're skipping this.
44th Ward.
Okay, just Raboyes?
Yep.
Okay, Vice Chair Raboyes, this item, you want to read it into the record, bottom of page 10, in the 44th Ward.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is number 20488 T1 in the 44th Ward. Ordinance was referred to 9/9/2020, common address 835 West Addison Street. The change request is an RM-5 residential multi-unit district to a B1-3 neighborhood shopping district. Mr. Chairman, it's important to note that this item went before the Planning Commission at this time. Alderman Lopez moves to incorporate the records from the Planning Commission by the same roll call used to determine quorum. Any objections?
Wait. Before, I think, Ariel, we gave you a little bit of the wrong directive. This was not before the Planning Commission.
It was not. Okay.
So we have a substantive narrative plan, change of plans for the T1. So there was some.
Then I move to accept the substantive plan and narrative.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez.
You're welcome.
Any objections? Hearing none, substantive plan are before us. We have with us, I think, speaking on this matter, is it Liz Butler?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Liz Butler from the law firm of DLA Piper, located at 444 West Lake Street in Chicago. I, along with my colleague Rich Clowder, represent the Lakeview Lutheran Church, the applicant in this matter. The church is seeking a zoning map amendment for the property located at 835 West Addison. There are substitute ordinance narrative and plans, and thank you for accepting those for consideration. I'm joined today by Reverend Lila Bukema on behalf of the Lakeview Lutheran Church, Eric Huffman on behalf of Over the Rainbow Association, the church's development partner, and Dennis Langley of Weiss Langley Weiss, the project architect. Again, the applicant is seeking a type 1 zoning map amendment to rezone the property from the RM5 residential multi-unit district to the B13 neighborhood shopping district in order to construct a 6-story multi-unit mixed-use building containing, which you see on your screen now, containing 37 dwelling units, ground floor religious assembly space, and 12 vehicular parking spaces. The church has operated in Chicago for nearly 172 years and has been a neighborhood institution at this location in the Lakeview neighborhood since 1960. The church is partnering with the Over the Rainbow Association, an Illinois not-for-profit organization dedicated to providing barrier-free independent living solutions for individuals with physical disabilities. The property today is improved with the church's building, a single-story building, and together, the church and the Over the Rainbow Association are proposing to redevelop the property with the mixed-use building that will provide permanent supportive housing for low-income individuals with physical disabilities. Again, the project will provide 37 units of affordable housing on floors 2 through 6. Space for the church functions on the first floor and the second floor, and then 12 vehicular parking spaces on the ground floor within the building envelope. The church will continue to operate in the new building in a space that is right-sized for its smaller congregation. The property is a transit-served location. It's located near the Addison L stop, and the project will utilize the transit-served location features of the zoning ordinance to allow the proposed parking and project density. The project will redevelop the property with a development program that's designed to meet a critical shortage of affordable housing for low-income individuals with disabilities. The project will serve residents at or below 30% of AMI. This project was vetted with Alderman Tunney and the community through a rigorous community review process. The applicant presented the project to the Triangle Neighbors Community Association in September and then again in November, and to the 44th Ward Community Directed Development Council in September, along with smaller individual meetings that were hosted by Alderman Tunney and the development team with neighbors of the property. And as a result of the feedback that the development team received through that community process, the development team made a variety of design enhancements to make the project design more compatible and responsive to the neighborhood context, and a considerably superior project is the result. A number of community partners have expressed their fervent support of the project and have provided letters to that effect. Again, we worked very closely with Alderman Tunney and his staff, and we understand that the Alderman is in support of this application. And we would respectfully request that you recommend City Council approval for this application. We appreciate your time and your consideration of this project, and we're available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Chairman Tunney, would you like to speak on the matter?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Raboyes and members of the committee. This is a reuse of an existing church where the church will take a smaller footprint, and the total number of units will be 100% affordable. The only thing to note that it's on the corner of Addison and Rita. More residential. We're moving all the loading and unloading for activity on Addison at the request of the neighboring residences. And then also there is a 30-foot setback from the neighboring residential I think they're 4-story buildings that are behind. So there was concern about the overall height, try to push it as much to Addison as we can. And we did have, as Liz said, numerous meetings. We have, as she noted, I think we've got 5 letters of support from community groups. So we went through the process. I think we got a good project and a much sorely needed reuse of an existing church that will stay, and 100% affordability on these units in Lakeview, which is a feat in of itself. So I ask for the committee's support on this project. And for those of you that know where Rita is, right across the street is the 19th Police District Station. So they didn't object to this. All right.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. So the church will still be operating out of there, as I take it, right? That used to be one of my hangouts in 1967.
Yep. You were selling cars. I thought you were selling cars or in the parking lot there.
No, I used to live down the street from there. No.
All right.
If there are no questions, Alderman Lopez makes a motion do pass by the same roll
Quick
call.
Quick question.
Yes, Alderman.
I know you were reliving glory days of 1967 when I was born. I was going to ask who picked the color blue, but I know that the Cubs are right up the street. But a serious question, Alderman Tunney, in the financing of the project, is that done by the church, or is there government funds that are going to it?
I think the applicant can speak, but there are no city funds at this point. It's state. There's some state funding on this. Liz, do you want to? Did I misspeak or?
Yeah, I can address that. The applicant will be submitting an application to IDA in January for low-income housing tax credits, and then we'll be seeking some CHA support.
Okay, I think if through the committee chair you could provide some of that background information. I think many of us are struggling with churches that are not being used to the full capacity even prior to COVID, and I think in the need for affordable, accessible housing, this could be an option for using of old buildings that are otherwise being underutilized. So I think if you can get some of that information to committee members, we would welcome it. Good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to, Alderman Burnett, I just want to commend my colleague, Alderman Tom Tunney, for contributing to our affordable housing challenges in the city. God bless the church for coming up with something creative to continue to help people. I think this is great, but also contributing to the bulk of the city, because we do need more bodies in the city and diversity. So congratulations to you, Alderman, and God bless you, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions?
Chairman, I would renew the motion to approve as amended.
There are no questions. Alderman Lopez makes a motion do pass as substituted by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed as revised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
All right. So so we're my staff's telling me we're right near the end. We have to defer one item. But I also wanted to let you know that we did receive a positive email from Alderman Silverstein on the application on Pratt Boulevard in the 50th Ward. So with that, we're going to go back for the final item to defer, and I'll read it into the record. It's on page 8. Unless Lewis Powell is with us.
He communicated with
Oh,
us
he
to
can't.
defer to January.
Okay. So he's asked to defer it. So let me read it into the record. Number 20525, 3rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on October 7th of 2020. Common address 3924 South Wells Street. Change request RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to a B21 neighborhood mixed use district. As was mentioned, the applicant wants to be deferred to the January meeting. Do I have any questions by committee members on that deferral?
So moved, Chair.
Motion. Is that Alderman Ray Lopez on that?
Me and my dog, yes, sir.
All right. I couldn't tell the distinction actually there. All right. Alderman Ray Lopez and his dog makes a motion to defer the previously read item. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I was going to bark, but I thought I'd leave it alone there. So any opposed? Hearing none, the item has been deferred to the January meeting. So I think we're going to recess. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
well, we're adjourning. We're
Okay.
not recessing.
Okay, so the morning session of the zoning meeting is adjourned, or can I get a motion to adjourn?
Alderman Hopkins moves adjournment.
Alderman Hopkins moves to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the morning meeting is adjourned.